How
Well,
long
I
have
want to take a second to just welcome everyone to the Q&A. Yeah, thank you. This was such a great video. You know, we're trying to put stuff out that's going to be really useful for people and you can go back to and use as a resource. And thank you so much, Billy, for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Billy did a masterclass for us last year, and it was just wonderful. And so we're very, very pleased to have him back. So yeah, anyone who has questions can either you can just raise your hand or type in the chat. And I would just ask you to mute yourself if you're not, actively talking. So, but we're happy to take anyone's questions.
Someone asked if this is being archived. Yes, it's being recorded and it will be available on our YouTube page. Is that correct?
on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, on the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Another question that was asked right next to that was, Billy, how long does your routine take?
Right. Okay. So that's a good question. So on average, if it's like a normal day, my routine I would say take about anywhere between 30 and 40 minutes. Now that changes, like I said before we officially got on here, that changes based on how much work that I have to do. So if I have a lot of playing ahead of me for the day, or if I'm kind of beat up, I change my routine and cater that to what I have to do. But, keeping in mind that I keep the skeleton of the same warm-up. So it's the same thing. It's like a basic, intermediate, and intermediate version of the same thing. But essentially the same thing. And so my shortest warm-up, I would say, takes about 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I can do my stuff in 5 minutes and feel ready and prepared to go. So anywhere between 5 minutes and 40 minutes. But for all intents and purposes, between 30 and 40 minutes.
Great. Any other questions?
I see George.
Yes. How you doing, Billy?
Hello.
Thank you so much for doing this. Quick question, kids. Okay, so I have a 2-year-old, and I'm a full-time trumpet professor. How do you balance your practice time being focused with toddlers or little ones? How have you developed that? I'm very interested in that.
So it's funny you mentioned that, because there was a question earlier from Kathy, who was like, well, what was the tune that I played at the end? And so that little tune, this at the I think that was it. I have a bunch of them. I switch them up, but this is like a little nursery rhyme, like a tune that a Bulgarian, my wife's Bulgarian, a Bulgarian kids nursery song, kids song, lullaby is the word I was looking for, that I play for them, and they come in and they'll usually dance, and I play several things for them. Before I was in a waiting room, I was playing Mambo Caliente for them, and they get on their beds and dance. But quite often I'll make exercises just out of kids melodies. You get my drift, So I'll do that to try to, it's like, all right, I need to do my tonguing. I need to do this, just to, as many creative ways. But it's definitely, I don't have the time I did when I was in college.
Right.
To, play all this stuff. But it's some creative, it's hard. It's hard. I have two, they're going to be 2 this month, 2 2-year-olds. Twins, and I also have a 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. And so so it's but they're playing piano or whatnot,
Mhm.
You know, I just saw on the chat what trumpet I use for my warm up, and so like going back to my routine, I always warm up on a B flat trumpet. Sorry, thanks, George. I didn't say thanks for the questions, but I always warm up on a B flat. This is what my teacher Ray Crisera. He was a big B flat guy, old school. He did everything. You know, whenever he showed up for a gig, it was always B flat trumpet, flugelhorn, and piccolo trumpet. That's all he needed for any gig he had to do. I lost my question here. My train of thought. Excuse me. Yeah. So, well, back to the. You know, I don't know if you can hear my girls. They're playing drums as we speak now, but yeah, you know, it's doing the balance. It's like it's interesting because you have to like have even in your practice session, like set it up to where you have time, you don't kill yourself, right? So between each of these exercises that I do, between like the butt mouthpiece buzzing and the lip slurs and the tonguing, I always take breaks. Even between this exercise. The tonguing exercise I do, I'll go ahead and take like a slight break, you know. And what I find is just lets the blood get back in there a little bit by little bit. And when I'm done with my routine, I take a little bit of time off. And then when I come back in for my practice sessions, I practice for about 15 minutes, and then I take a break. I take it exactly the same amount of time or more when I'm practicing. So I'm practicing over a long period of time with enough rest in there, because I think that's important. What I find from students a lot is that they'll, you know, practice this. You know, I played 5 hours. Okay, how much rest in that playing for 5 hours did you do? Oh, maybe about 20 minutes. It's like, well, that's no good. You know, that's counterproductive. Yeah. Now, when I have a long session, I try to make sure I hit all my instruments. So I'll start with the B flat, do all my routines on a B flat. Then I'll move to the C trumpet, E flat, and then piccolo, and then sometimes like cornet and rotary trumpet in between there. And depending on, once again, what I have to perform, what I have to play.
That's a great question. Kathy has a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and now I'm trying to think of what it was. Because I'm old people and I don't remember everything all the time.
Well, we can come back to you if
well, I did have the question in the that I put in the chat of the YouTube video, and you know, I have issues just practicing. I remember my question now, but anyways, I have practice issues with triple tonguing, and Keith Winking had told me to, instead of going ta-ta-ka, to think ta-ka-ta. So you're still going ta-ta-ka, right? But you just offset the T.
Right. So
what do you think about that?
So my honest, like to God opinions, like, well, I don't care what syllable you're using as long as it sounds good. Now and Keith Weeking's teacher as well, you know, he was like, now multiple tonguing is a substitute for your single tongue whenever the tempo is such where you have a passage where you're tonguing. You can't make it on the single tongue. That's where you use the double tongue or the triple tongue, right? Now, a lot of people have like fast tongues, fast single tongues, so they can, you know, play a passage that maybe someone like myself who has a very slow single tongue would have to multiple tongue. But the point is that you have to practice getting the K to sound as easy as the T, and easing up that K, and that you know, putting the K in the middle, tak, 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 for me gives it a different type of sound. It makes things more like kind of like a fanfare square, like dunk, Like if you want to make it square and set back, but with the TTK, you have something fast like that, you know. You do with the TKT, it kind of gets in the, makes it a little bit like a little bit more difficult or awkward, I should say. But the point is to try to practice that K, loosen up that K. I think I mentioned that in the video. So something like. So what I find to improve, if you can't triple tongue something, or if it like lags behind, set a metronome and play it slow, like a. And really listen. The slower you slow it down, the more that K is going to stick out. The closer you can get that K to sound like the T, the easier it is going to be. Now, with that being said, I think of my tongue as being like kind of in the front of the mouth, and so when I tongue, not like ta ta ka, like all the way back here, ta ta, which happens a lot, ta ta ka. And so it's like getting back. It's like takes a much longer time to get, you know. So I think of keeping everything close, like, and I try to also think of like what the Arben says in his book about like the single tongue, that it's like a reaction, like a pop like that, as opposed to a top bop. It's like bop bop bop, right? So I think of that with the tongue close to the front of the mouth or whatever, and I think of keeping the air moving forward, right? Like one airstream, like the bow of a violin. You know, this is your airstream, and so if the airstream's like this, it's gonna be all like weird. But if the airstream's like that, it's like what do you call that? Spiccato on the violin. I'm not a violinist, so. Rachel's laughing at me, but keeping this still is going to affect the sound, right? You know, so this, the air always stays the same. So I think of the as little bumps, like you're driving a car, little bumps in the road, right? But playing it slow. And the other thing that for me that helps is to not try to think of, when you multiple tongue, think of playing things super short, right? Fall into that. So as soon as you do that, you get this kind of it's like tongue stopping almost, which means you're just like kind of stopping the air, right? The bow's always moving forward, right? Straight and steady. Right? So the reason, one of the things I always like to say is Rafael Mendez. Like if you slow his stuff down, this guy's like a lightning speed tongue. Him and like Ole von what's that I forget his name, soloist cornet solo, Edward von Olsen or Ole von anyway, I'm embarrassing myself. This guy has a fantastic name. But if you think of the tongue being smooth, like smooth, that helps a lot as well. And conversely, doing your lip slurs will help your tonguing as well, because you're keeping that concept of the air moving forward. Because all that tongue getting stuck up like that is like all related. It's kind of like, well, we have this and this and this. It's like, well, what it surfaces itself as like being a problem with the tongue, where in actuality it's like a couple different things. And it's like all about relaxation, smooth, keeping that air moving, and playing things slow. The kind of an opposite thing you would think to improve like speed. Now, and it also comes from the faster you can get your triple tonguing or whatever. I always say the fast, as fast as you can get your single tongue is as fast as you're going to be able to triple tongue, right? So what I mean by that, it's like if you increase the speed of your single tongue, the speed of your triple tongue will obviously be faster, right? There's a good Chris Gecker articulation exercises you put the metronome, you start at like whatever your tongue feels comfortable on, and then you increase the tempo. 16th notes, I believe. So you start that, you have to use it with the metronome, and you keep it for a minute. And then so slowly you do it, it's like something that's going to take like a couple weeks, months even, maybe, for someone like me, because I have a very, very, very slow single tongue. But when I was doing this exercise, it did help improving the articulation of the note, but the speed of the single tongue. Sorry, that's like kind of a long answer for your question, Kathy.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
That was really informative. I thought it was great.
Yep.
Nicolette, Justine, and Adele have a question from the chat. When you have a sore throat, or are sick, are you still able to practice? The three of them are a violist and a violinist, so they would have no idea.
So I just remember specifically I was doing a recital in Virginia, and I woke up, it's traveling with the kids, it's like practicing. I was getting stressed because I had hard stuff to play, and I'm like, I wake up, it's like I've been talking all day. It's like, I need water, and I look in the mirror and I open my mouth, and it's like, I have these white dots on my throat, and I had to play a recital. So I played a recital. So yeah, you can still practice. It's not advisable. If you can not practice, that would be ideal with a sore throat, because a lot of times with trumpet, you do need your throat to be open and not like closed off, and your jaw, all that stuff, it's all that's important. So yeah, no, you can practice if you have a sore throat. I've definitely practiced with like you have a minor cold or something. Yeah, I've definitely practiced, but I'm if I didn't have to practice, I wouldn't.
Good question. Patricia has a question.
So going back to the routine, when did you first start developing it?
Oh, good question. Yeah, that's a very good question. So my routine, I developed. It took me years and years and years and years. The way I learned to develop the routine, I just went around and picked people's brains and tried different methods, and just picked and choose whichever one fits the best for me. So I have to say it started from early on. Like I would say like high school days in marching band. Our band director would have us we'd march in place, and we'd he'd have the metronome click 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 click. So we're marching click click click, and we would sing a B flat 1 2 3 4, and then we would play it. So it's like a lot of singing and playing from early on, which is I can't tell you, so important to be able to hear the note and to associate with what you're hearing in your ear, because that's what's going to come out of your instrument, essentially. So this is like a very basic thing, and I even use that when I do the mouthpiece buzzing. Kind of hinted on it. It's kind of what I meant with like singing and playing. Yeah, as close to the pitch as possible, because this thing here is just an amplification of what's going on in here, which is what's going on here, or here, back to my routine. So when I got into college, my teacher there, Ray Crisera, listened to me play, and he said, well, can I just suggest this for you? And so the lip slurs I did were, essentially his lip slurs, and it wasn't anything set in stone. I thought everyone in school did the same lip slurs, but it turns out he gave everyone different lip slurs to do, because we're all different people. We all have different, body makeups and mouthpieces and lips and things. So not any two people are going to play the same. Maybe they may sound the same, but like this whole, but there are general things that you have to do, so, I was trying to make this warm-up video as general as I could, without getting too specific, right? But so I've and then that, and through the course I've listened to different players, picked up. I studied with Ray Mace, picked up some stuff from him, and I picked up a couple of things from Michael Sachs down in New World Symphony when I was down there, and he came to coach. And so based on all of these things, I developed my own warm-up method that does change, and so it's like, if for the older players out there, once you have something solid. Now, what that means, just starting out, you do need something solid, like if I'm like grade 6, everyday grade 6, and it goes, all right, I'm doing my long tones, G, F sharp, G, doing this every day. And that's what I did. And it was a little bit more complicated in junior high than in the high school. And I didn't really have a teacher in high school, but I did that warm up that the teacher gave me, and it worked wonders. And I recommend that for any brass playing, because it's great being able to hear that note and playing the note. But this is how I developed my warm up over the years.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Patrick has a question, and then Kathy will get to your question next after that.
Hi, Professor.
Hello.
I was looking to ask about stability in your
Hello? I lost you, Pat. We lost you, Pat.
Sorry, I guess I accidentally muted. But a big problem that I seem to have is, keeping the stability depending on where I am in the horn,
Mm-hmm.
and playing throughout the whole range of the horn precisely.
Right. Right.
And I know. Well, go ahead.
No, go. You get it.
Because I know you talked about just making sure you do the same thing and like perfecting one stagnant way of playing and everything. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing different things for different ways to play, but
right. So your question is, how do you get the stability?
yeah.
Nice to see you here, Patrick. So as far as like being stable, I think that starts just not only because I know your like history a little bit, it's like you have to start from a spot where like you erase everything you learned in the past, right? So in order to get like a nice, consistent, stable sound, you have to start from point 0. All right, I got my mouthpiece, bop, and this whole singing, bum, and the buzzing, right? Start with the buzzing. You have that, and then you do the singing and then the playing. But for you, and I'll give you some. You should write me because I have some ideas. I was thinking about you. Maybe like long tones, right? And when I say long tones, I know some people are not into those things, but like something like this, where you just play a note and hold it. Right? So you're listening to the sound at a slow pace. You're listening to what kind of sound you're making and aiming like to get the best sound you can make, right? Without, like thinking about anything else, right? And like keeping everything still, right? Not like moving all this stuff around. So in front of a mirror, doing this. Listening for a nice, solid sound, right? And then when you move on to whatever lip slurs you do, don't try to keep everything like stable, right? Even so, if you have like your set is like this or like this, you want to stay the same. And that I find looking in the mirror helps tremendously. Like looking in the mirror. Not to move at all. That's like that's a good start. There's some more complicated stuff I want to. If you don't mind, I'll PM you later. Is that all right?
That's fine with me.
You give me a call, man. You don't give me a call anymore. You don't call. You don't write. I know Patrick, obviously. So
now I have to do it a lot more often because you called me.
Yes,
right.
Please.
Thank you, Billy.
Yes, no, thank you.
Great question. Kathy's question is for someone like me, Kathy, not me, that hasn't had opportunities to play regularly because of teaching. What is a good 15 to 30-minute set of exercises I can do to get back into working my chops back? Good question.
Okay, good question. Do you play any jazz at all, Kathy, or no?
Yeah, I mean, I teach jazz, so I play some here and there.
I was just recently talking with someone, and like, and he's like, oh yeah, what do you? I'm going on a vacation. He goes, are you gonna bring your trumpet? He goes, oh yeah, I gotta bring my trumpet. He's like, well, how do you stay in shape? And this is a classical person. He's like asking this other person, he's like, well, how do you stay in shape? He's like, well, what exercises do you do? He goes, well, I play Abersols for 10, 15 minutes. And like, it's like, oh, and this is a classical person, mind you, And so you put on the Abersols, and like a lot of times when you're improvising, there's like, you're going along, you don't really take the mouthpiece off. And so it's like kind of an easy way to get your keep your chops up, without like thinking about it, because a lot of times, and I found a little bit of this when I was not, this time period where I didn't have like a lot of gigs, but I wasn't planning anything, and I was trying to keep my playing up. It's like, well, I have to figure out how am I gonna play, because you're not playing with people, this, that, and the other. And so what for me, like I didn't necessarily have exercises, but what I would do, I would play etudes. So I would, even now, like now's a perfect, like, so I'm literally like looking through this book, the Arbin Mare.
Here's my Arbin book, Billy, right here. At least it has the preface page.
Well, I mean, I would say etudes. Now, if you play every day, which like you said that and I know sometimes you can't play every day. Yeah, and it's hard. But if you find yourself like skipping days, of course that's going to get hard to get back in the swing of things. But getting back, like, so you play Monday, you skip Tuesday, on Wednesday, just go through your routine like slowly, all your basic stuff, because the things that we lose in our plan when we don't play are our basics. Tonguing, ease of sound, multiple tonguing, slurring, flexibility, fingers. So if you practice all of that stuff, everything should start to come back. But like playing, even if it's like 5 minutes, like, so when I'm on vacation, I always bring my trumpet Yeah, I know. But yeah, so I bring my trumpet, even if it's just 5 minutes, because if I don't play for that 5 minutes, like I get this like weird film on my lip, just feels funny, and it just doesn't like work right. But if I can do at least 5 minutes, I can do like the bottom of the barrel like maintenance.
Cool. Thank you.
Good question. I had a question, Billy.
Mhm.
Well, actually, let's get to George's question. He just sent, what are your top 3 go-to books for maintenance?
Good question. Arbin, Arbin, Saint Jacome, and I would say I don't want to say Arbin Mare, but I'm just looking what I have here. So definitely the Arbin book, the Saint Jacomes, and probably Clark. Only because Clark has like the technique and stuff. But like I like the Arbin and the Saint Jacomes because it has the technique and the slurring and all that stuff. But it also has etudes. These like different etudes you can play. And within the Saint Jacomes, I mean like the Bousquets are in there, and the grand etudes and all that stuff. So those are my maintenance books. But like pure maintenance, like I mean Arbin, like that's for me, that's Trumpet Bible.
And with the Arbin Mare, do you mean book 3 of the Arbin Mare?
Oh, sorry, Arbin Mare is this book that I just held up.
3 parts,
That's
I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, I have an old version that's there's like all those like parts of the original Arbin book, but then there's like the modern etudes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I have. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Just to throw back a little bit on the last question, when you mentioned the Aebersold books, I definitely love those books, and I when I can't play all the time, I'll definitely pull out one of those books and throw on the CD and play a couple of tunes. It's a really great way to keep up the maintenance, I think.
Yeah, and also, my friend was telling me the Aebersolds are all online now. Like you can just look them up on YouTube, apparently.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have the old school version with the CD.
Yeah.
On YouTube?
Do we
Okay,
have
That's what
to
he
check that
told.
out.
I haven't looked. Maybe someone can check now, but
Right,
they're
let me go
apparently
look.
online somewhere.
Patricia, you mean Jamie Aebersold is the name of the composer. He's a sax player, I think, but he made all kinds of jazz books. They cover all different styles of jazz, like 2-5-1s and the rhythm changes and all kinds of things, scales. And they come with the old school ones. They used to come with a CD that had like a jazz band backing, like a piano.
The old school ones came with a record.
Oh!
I'm not that old, but my teachers had them. Just wanted to say that.
Wow. That's great. Well, it's a great resource to learn to get comfortable with jazz and like the language of jazz. They're really great.
I'm not finding any online, by the way. It's all, you have to purchase them all.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'll yeah. I mean, I don't know because like I don't look. I have the old ones, the old back in the CDs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Christopher says, what is the most difficult aspect of playing the trumpet?
The most difficult aspect of playing the trumpet is getting out of your head, right? It's like that's I mean, like 95% of the trumpet is your brain, right? It's like we do all this technical stuff, and then and what I find a lot is like trumpet players tend to create problems for themselves. I can't, this, my tongue, this airspeed, blah, it's like, just play the note, sometimes, we need, and it's a mental game that we always play. So that, I mean, for me, that's like the biggest issue for playing the trumpet is I stand outside of my head. Yeah. Oh, I see Anthony Prisk is here.
Yeah, Tony's here. You got a question, Tony? Cannot believe it. Great to see you, man.
Billy,
Yes. Hello.
red flag.
Hold on. That's my daughter's.
I'm used to that.
Sorry. There's George. There's 2-year-olds. There you go.
Wonderful. Joseph, I see you over there. Joseph is one of our trombone
Kenny.
players. You got a question, Joseph? Anything?
Okay, I'm unmuted. When you were talking about like getting out of your head, I'm having a big problem with that. Like, especially with high notes, like I can breath attack them, but I can't tongue them, and I don't know why.
Yeah. So you can breath attack them. That's pretty impressive, actually. I mean, most people can only like they get a note, they can probably tongue it, a high note, But like a breath attacking, if you're breath attacking high notes, I mean you're almost there, So what exactly, like when you breath attack, what exactly are you doing with these high notes? What do you like? What do you feel like? Is it feel like you're working here, or does it feel like you're working elsewhere?
I don't know. It just feels like more relaxed when I like just blow it, but when I try tongue it, I just get all tensed up.
Yeah. So it sounds to me just like, I mean, I don't know your plan or anything, but it's like we were talking about earlier, like that with that bow, right? And so keeping it, it's always moving, right? And so what happens, like, I think with brass players, the tongue should be doing this, air, tongue, and boom, it just bumps across, right? So what happens sometimes, like the air's coming, and we do that with the tongue, right? The tongue comes in, stops the air, right? So you don't get a sound, right? So, I would say, maybe like some type of like legato tonguing. Exercises where you gradually get up into the register, like scales. Like so, usually just go and you get to a note where you feel comfortable, right? It's like you feel comfortable, and then play it in different like articulation stuff. So like, if you're doing then practice it with a different articulation. Right, so you start from low to high, and then come back down. So start with slurring it, just to get that airflow. And then slowly get to the, more articulated like sound with the tongue. Experiment with all types of articulation when you get in or near that register, because I'm telling you, if you're air attacking like high notes, man, it's just a matter of being loose. So like you said, you're getting inside your head. So what I do to stay outside of my head, I do meditation exercises, which keeps me like nice and calm. That's a whole different subject, but for all intents and purposes, doing some type of breathing relaxation exercise helps to stay outside your head. And the last thing is like reverting back to what I was saying earlier. What if you just like try to sing it, and then play it? Just imitate exactly what you're singing. Da 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 da. so we can associate that ear, what you're hearing in your head, ear, head, ear, to the tongue. So hopefully that helps. I would
Yeah.
definitely have to hear you play, but I think if you're air attacking, they're like literally this close, like right there.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great question, Joseph. I see. So, if those of you who don't know Tony plays second trumpet in the Philly Orchestra, and I see him over there with his trumpet, and I want to hear what's going on.
What are you doing over there, Tony? Come on. It's an old running joke between the two of us. Yeah. George has a question.
So maybe this would be actually good for both you and Tony. So when you're doing your routine or your practice, the percentages, I'd like to know warm up, maintenance, etude solo work, and then your actual gig preparation.
Ooh.
How? Sorry, I have to. Sorry.
It's a loaded question.
You have been doing this for a very long time, but I like to know the percentage of your maintenance and then etude solo work, because both of you do solos too from time to time. So I love to know how you're keeping that up, as well as balancing your orchestral demands. And
so the and I'll let you talk, Tony, in a sec here. But yeah. So for me, I like my warm up. Like I said, is like, so it depends on my day, because like I have to take the kids to school, blah blah blah. So like average day. All right. So wake up, go. I have rehearsal at 10:30. So the rehearsal music for that day, I've already looked at it in the previous week. So I'm practicing stuff that I need to like work on. So I go rehearsals at 10:30. So they'll show up probably at the latest 9:30 sometimes. I'll do like half an hour warm up. So if I get there at 9, half an hour warm up, I'll take a little bit of a break, and for 20, let's say a 10-minute break, I'll do 20 minutes. And then my warm up, mind you, my routine, I've already done like my tonguing, slurring, high notes, low notes, all that good stuff, and whatever horns that I need for the day. And so I'm looking at my week ahead. It's like, all right, I have to play this, and this, and I have to play this recital stuff. Yeah, it's so funny. This is Tony. Back when I had to like play Alpine Symphony with Philadelphia, I was like subbing in. I was also doing Porgy and Bess and Verdi Macbeth, and like and preparing for a recital at the same time. So my practice session, my warm up then was like about 20 minutes, and then I would spend about 10 minutes on each little piece. And within each little piece, like, all right, got to look at Alpine. All right. So I would look at all the, look at that, and that lick. So all the stuff that was giving me trouble. Look at all those licks. All right. Right. That's done for now. Right. Okay. And now I got to look at Porgy and Bess. I got to, this part, like look at this lick here, boom, for like 5 minutes, and then Macbeth or the same. This, all right, got that, all right. Then I'd go back and say I had to do this lyrical thing, boom. So it's like lined up, and then so I take a break before rehearsal just to make sure I have my lips, are settling. Do the rehearsal, have like an hour before I do pickup for gymnastics. So I would do another 45-minute session, more of the same thing, all of the same stuff, boom, 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 breaking it down and taking breaks. And so I would say, when I have to, but if I have a recital, shows, warm up is about, I would say 20%, practicing 20%, 60% performance? Tony.
Sorry, I'm on my phone here, so I don't know how it sounds. But I'm very similar in the same sense that my warm-up routine is more of a fundamentals practice routine. So really the first 10 to 15 minutes of my warm-up, I'm warmed up and I could play anything that I need to play for the most part. You know, maybe it won't be the exact sound that I want or the feel that I want, but at least I'll be able to be, you know, making a healthy sound, and my lips won't be injured by, you know, by playing too heavy. So on days where I have like a double rehearsal or a rehearsal and a concert, I still do my warm up. I still do at least 15 minutes at home, going through some fundamentals, and then when I get to work, I'll finish what I need to do to get ready for work, whether it be like work on some licks for the concert or rehearsal, or look at things that I need to play later. When it's a lighter week, I'll be hitting the concerti and the solo pieces or the brass quintet stuff that I need to do, and work on those kind of things and fit that into my regular schedule. Sometimes that means, you know, hanging out at the hall after rehearsal and playing on stage or playing in a room at the hall. Sometimes it means, you know, doing a longer warm-up routine, adding more piccolo and more E-flat trumpet, maybe even, you know, playing through some etudes and things that I need to relate to the pieces that I'm playing. Let's say I'm having triple tonguing stuff, so I'll throw some cornet solos into my regular playing, or you know, if I'm working on some high register things, I'll play more piccolo. So it's the same thing as Billy. It depends on every week to week, depending on what I'm playing. As I kind of like got it from the whole Bud Herseth saying, you know, when you're playing Mahler, you're practicing Mozart. When you're playing Mozart, you're practicing Mahler. You know, it's balancing the playing out, making sure you're not missing any of the fundamental things that you need to keep up on, and then when it comes to the solo repertoire, just, you know, picking your licks. You know, you can play the opening of the Hummel concerto. You know, it's like that's not difficult for most professional players. What's difficult is some of the more technical things in the third movement, or some of the ornamentations or things like that. So you have to pick and choose your spots, and like Billy said, and just work on those little things and work those into your fundamental playing. You know, if it means throwing some interval practice in by playing, you know, in the Hummel, then that's that's your interval practice, and maybe you just transpose that in a few different keys. So yeah, it's a matter of incorporating the licks into your fundamental practice.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Billy, for that.
Yeah.
We've
been Doom buddies today.
Soon, but I want to. I just have one question for Billy.
Sure.
Some of the lip slur exercises that you were doing. Do you have like PDFs or something? Like, is there any way that we can get our hands?
You know, I would have to write them down. Some of my students at like NJCU and Peabody have just handwritten copies of them. It's nothing that was published or anything, but I could definitely write it out and like send it to you. For sure.
And we can make that available when we post the links for these videos on our YouTube page for anyone who might be interested in having those. Okay, one last question from Christopher. Do trumpet players use more air while practicing long tones than a flute player does? If so, why is that the case?
Does a trumpet player use more air than a flute player and while practicing? I don't think so. I don't know how much air a flute player.
I can answer that question. I'm a band director.
I mean,
Sure,
maybe
Kathy,
Kathy can answer for us. I mean, I'm completely clueless.
So we always tell the kids that it takes as much air to play flute or more than it does to play tuba. So I would suspect that it actually takes more air to play flute than it does a trumpet.
Yeah.
I know that I run out of air faster when I'm playing flute, but then again, I don't practice flute very often because I play trumpet.
Sure.
So,
Well, a big thing is the trumpet has lots of resistance. There's something like pushing back against your air. The flute has none of that.
Wow.
I'm always impressed by flute players, Christopher. I don't know how you guys do it. Like it's impossible. That's great. That's a great question. Thank you for that. Billy, another big thank you to you. It's a great video.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone for coming and join us. Thank you for the information you left us with, Tony. That was really helpful. And like I said, these videos, Billy's video and this conversation we're having here will be available on our YouTube page for anyone to see. So your students can come and check this information out anytime.
They're all going to be compiled under the Sterling Masterclass playlist. So this whole series will be in one playlist. You can just go and find the one you want.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you so much.
Always love
Thank
having
you.
you.
Thanks, Billy.
Yeah.